Now, Ledité went to London in 1786. What a great place, having just returned from there. And he's there to work at the Royal Gardens, which is where I was, a great, beautiful garden. While in London, he is there learning about the stippled engraving process, which he perfected to a science, and he also learned about the single plate color printing process. Well, on their return to Paris, Ledité secured his protege the post of draftsman to Queen Marie Antoinette. And after the Revolution, Ledité joined von Spondonk at the National Museum of Natural History, eventually becoming his successor as the official painter of the Royal Vellum Collection of France, started under Louis XIII. Now, this was an inspiring time for the young artist, but Ledité's most creative period began in 1798-99, when Napoleon's first wife, Josephine, acquired the Malmaison Chateau west of Paris and hired Ledité as the official court painter. In Josephine, Ledité was to find an enthusiastic and generous, very generous patroness of botany. And Josephine, yes, a passionate gardener and lover of plants, was determined to fill her gardens with the rarest and most beautiful plants that the old and new worlds could furnish. And with professional botanists on staff, discoverers, explorers, and then with Ledité as the official court painter, Josephine poured out untold sums of money in the collection or the exploration, in the cultivation, the horticulture, and in the documentation or in publications of some of the most choice flowers literally around the world. And for this, she's remembered in science as a great patroness of botany and the exploration for new species. Well, for an example, Ledité, in his Liliaceae family, or book, he named one of the most stunning plates in that book after his patroness, Amaryllis josephini, the largest flower cluster in the Amaryllis family. Here is that beauty. Amaryllis josephini, honoring Josephine. And from Chile came Napoleon's bellflower, Lapageria rosea, named after Josephine's maiden name. 19th century Spanish explorers Ruiz and Pavon named the genus in compliment to Josephine Lapagerie, who rendered great services to botany by the cultivation of these beautiful and exotic plants in the gardens of Malmaison and Navarre, and by the encouragement that she gave to works on botany and exploration for many new discoveries around the world. Yes, engagement and support indeed beyond belief almost, including one of the greatest and most important scientific expeditions of all time, Alexander von Humboldt, a Bonpland German and French naturalist, who from 1799 to 1804 traveled through the Caribbean islands, Mexico, Peru, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Colombia, bringing back new concepts of plant geography and a host of new plants. These voyages led to many scientific discoveries and byproducts. Look at this, 8,000 plants cataloged and illustrated, 4,000 previously unknown to science. Yes, this monumental report of some 30 volumes, published over a 29-year period, is one of the greatest publications on scientific exploration, and Josephine was one of their sponsors. We'll see the benefits of that just a little later. Well, now on their return to Europe in 1804, Humboldt assisted his colleague Bonpland in acquiring the position of head botanist for Empress Josephine. Now, Humboldt, or Bonpland, is responsible for the gardens at Malmaison, the flora that's really at the center of the world, if you will, of science and beautiful publications and beautiful art. So, Bonpland is responsible for all these gardens and many magnificent folios that result from this garden, from paintings by Ledité. Fontenay, who was the previous director, published his Jardin de Malmaison, 1803-1804, and then Bonpland, he published his own book. This is descriptions of rare plants cultivated at Malmaison and Navarre. Both of these illustrations, illustrated with splendid colored engravings after original drawings by Ledité. They are among the greatest monuments of botanical illustration. And to this same period also belong the 8 wonderful volumes of the Liliaceae, which equal in brilliance, if not in popularity, to their famous successor, Les Roses. Now, Redouté, no doubt, had considerable botanical knowledge. He never abandoned the search for beauty and accuracy in every plant and flower he painted. He portrayed every plant with the precision and level of detail for it to be recognized and distinguished from another species. He once said in relation to the work on the lily family, in which there were 486 hand-colored engravings, every plant will be drawn, engraved, and colored with all the fidelity that science can desire, and which is more difficult, with the level of detail with which Mother Nature has embellished them. Now that is exactly what a botanist needs, that detail illustrated to help you identify these plants. And because of Redouté's ability to combine the art, or to combine the science with the art, his services were sought after by many in the scientific community. Now I want us to hit on that just a little bit. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of exploration and then the science of botany tied into this artwork here. Now, look at this here. Between 1804 and 1814, it was estimated that 184 new species flowered in the gardens and hothouses of Malmaison. Now, that is a botanist's dream come true, to be working in a garden with 184 new species flowering all the time, seems like. Well, to enable Josephine to have this such diversity of plants from literally the 4 corners of the earth, she had on staff these botanists, these explorers, bringing plants to her. There simply weren't these plants in Europe and France. So these explorers were very critical, bringing all these plants. So Josephine employed all these botanists, and then of course Redouté as the painter. For without exploration and discovery, none of these paintings really would have ever been possible, would have ever been brought to the artist's door. So I want us to focus on that just a little bit more here. Science does call for art to help document its researches today as it did centuries ago. However, adventure, discovery, collection, documentation, and frequently cultivation often precede the artist and the drawing. With current estimates of a staggering 100,000+ species still to find in this world, still to name, to describe, and to beautifully illustrate, maybe even in full color as well, well, 21st century plant hunters are searching the prairies, the deserts, the mountains, the rainforests, everywhere for much the same reasons as Humboldt and Bonpland did 2 centuries ago. Now, botanical discoveries often unfold through intrepid adventure and exploration, often spurred on by scholarship or through passion to find and collect new species before anyone else. Naming, describing, and typically illustrating are vital parts of the discovery, and bringing the plant into cultivation to learn more about it remains unaltered even today. Now, the words of pioneer botanist naturalist Constantine Rafinesque vividly portray the challenges, the excitement of an exploring botanist. Every step taken in the fields, groves, and hills appears to afford new enjoyments. Landscapes and plants jointly meet in your sight. Here is an old acquaintance seen again. There a novelty, a rare plant, perhaps a new one greets your view. You hasten to pluck it, examine, admire, and put it in your book. Then you walk on, thinking what it might be or may be made by you hereafter. You feel the exaltation. That peaceful conquest has cost no tears, but it fills the mind with a proud sense of not having been useless on earth, but having detected another link in that creative power of nature. Nature's purpose to induce the young, the old, to betake themselves to the fields, the woods, the mountains, and shores, and there to examine for themselves that rich profusion of life. And instead of vaguely admiring the diversified scenery of a district, to be able to mark its individual and minutest features. Therein is the eye of a botanist and the need for an artist to reveal and to share that discovery with even more people out there. Now, just a little deeper, look at this. The mere suspicion of a plant unknown was and still is an irresistible attraction, at least to the botanist. That botanist's eye scans the landscape like a hawk looking for its next meal. That eye catches the glimpse of a fascinating plant, one that creates a hunger to know what it is, what link it occupies in nature's chain. Oh, that botanist holds it, smells it, perhaps even tastes it, all in a manner of speaking as if to say, "Hello, beautiful, what is your name? And where did you come from?" Oh, the botanist, so excited, not knowing what it really is, at least scientifically, turns it and looks at it from all sides like a glorious model displaying a beautiful garment. But still, the botanist knows not what to call it, at least scientifically. And then the light bulb goes off. The botanist, "Oh, I have a new species. I get to name this and describe this." And so look at this process. That botanist holds that beauty up to the light and begins the process of classifying, naming, and describing a species new to science. Real quickly, look at this here. Herb, tuberous rooted, stems mostly erect, branching, glabrous, leaves opposite, typically one spinnate, sometimes bipinnate, leaflets ovate toothed. Now that's a botanical description. Then with an artist right there beside that botanist, illustrating this plant carefully by the living plant, perhaps even a pressed, dried herbarium specimen, and based on the description of the botanist. So the process continues. Looky here. Heads long, peduncle, large with yellow disc flowers. Here they are. Raised in a single series, mostly in shades of red and purple. The ray flowers are neutral or pistillate. Disc flowers here, perfect and fertile. So the illustrator does exactly what they see, to the exact thing, based on the plant, based on the observations of the botanist, and then the final process. The botanist says, involucre double, here it is, the inner series of thin scales, slightly united at the base, exterior series smaller and somewhat leafy. The receptacle, that's part of the flower part, plain, bearing Cheffy scales, and the rays are spreading, entire or minutely 3 to 5 dentate, and then the final part, sort of from the bigger leaves, stem, to the very, very center of the plant, the ovary, the fruit, oblong, obovate.